Frieren is one of those rare cases where you're actually glad to see the main character die, because technically that is true. We're dealing with perfect copies here, and honestly, I wasn't sure what happened last week. Fern looked to have defeated, but unfortunately, they knew that that wasn't going to be enough. And we get to witness the end of the second stage of this exam, which I was convinced was going on at least another episode given how everything was evolving. We witness cold-blooded murder. We confirm that Ubel is an absolute psychopath who in a test, I think for the second class exam, all you had to do was push a man back who was invulnerable and she cuts him in half like a absolute maniac. Complete psycho. No one can say otherwise after many have tried to do so over the weeks. But the fact that with the animation and the teamwork, Fern isn't at this point of being able to solo Frieren or even defeat Frieren with help of other Frieren just yet, but the idea that someday Fern absolutely will be one of the rare people who can, as Frieren kind of offs herself in this episode with that attack that she hasn't used in 80 years. Just when you think you can't like Frieren more, in its third to last episode of season 1, it does exactly that. It makes you say, how does a masterpiece continue to surpass itself? I have a full live reaction to this wonderful episode over on my Patreon. If you want to see my full uncut thoughts to all these wonderful episodes, they're over there if you're interested. Jesus, man, like, where do you even begin in an episode like this? I thought the biggest thing we were going to talk about was Ubel, because she's a maniac. So here's the thing with all the Frieren names. All of the names are based on a German word, right? So, and they perfectly match the characters' personalities. When you look up what Ubel means, and the fact that some people were still trying to argue that she wasn't that bad and I was being too much of a hater, I'm like, I like her character, but she's broken. Like there's screws or wires not there, or they're crossed, or just, there's something wrong with this bitch. And if you look at what she did in this episode in the past, you can't tell me otherwise. I think it was Kraft. I think that's who bumped into her early on into this arc and then just kind of dipped. Like, there's probably a reason characters avoid her just because they can sense there's something off and that she's pretty deadly. And it seems like any character that relies on defense would be a very poor matchup to someone who can cut through anything she imagines. You could say it's literally impenetrable, and she'll just say, nah, it is, and she would cut through it. The worst part about her killing that man is she literally didn't have to do it. So all you had to do was make him move backwards or make him move from his spot. If you have the ability to cut through anything, that cloak that he was wearing that stopped all magic attacks, all she had to do was, like, even if she stabbed him a little, but all you'd have to do is poke through his cloak and have him feel the blade against his skin. That would make him flinch, and she would have won. What does she do? You're probably expecting in that moment she stabs him. No, she cuts him clean into two, like an absolute maniac. And Jesus, man, like, the lack of remorse, I guess I lost, huh? Okay. Like, no empathy, no compassion. If anyone says they can still change her, you need to be locked in the loony bin with her. Jesus, man. But it made her a much more interesting character for sure. But like, when Sense is like, oh yeah, like it was lost long ago, and I'm like, who the hell can defeat this woman? I think anyone who's a faster caster could probably do it. So someone like potentially Fern or Frieren, because they can overwhelm her with speed. If you're relying on defense, that's going to do nothing against someone who can cut through anything. But if you can overwhelm her and not give her the opportunity, or even make it so she can't move, then of course there's ways to defeat her. She's not the most insane character that no one would be able to defeat her, but it does show that defense means nothing when it comes to someone like her. Insane. I wasn't expecting that. Like, literally cold-blooded murder, and just so casually and proudly doing so. We really have to commend the Frieren versus Fern Frieren fight. Like 3 or 4 times, they completely change the style of how the animation looks. So usually when you get like those highly Sakuga, oh my god, look at that animation fight scene, they have like this very like good animation style. Like they shift the art direction, the camera work, and you're like, damn, they cranked up the production quality by 10. They do that, but they actually shift it like 3 or 4 times with different color palettes. At one point you think, oh, a dragon is burning us with hellfire. The other point you think it's the Demon King's about to spawn. And all the shifts they do make it such a dynamic and vibrant fight that you feel like if you were standing in that room, I feel like skin would be melting off from the absolute insanity of all that aura. I thought Fern was losing, if I'm being honest. When she got slammed against that wall and her staff was broke, I thought she was going to have to pop that bottle. For whatever reason, it just completely slipped my mind that we had another Frieren. It was so shocking that that happened to her that I was like, oh my god. I mean, early into this episode, two have to break their bottles. One of which I'm like, don't tell me this girl actually has to break her. Because like when they get stabbed, you're thinking, okay, someone can help. I'm like, oh, my boy Denken. Even Denken wasn't enough for this, man. It's just the way this exam can make you go from, oh, their plan makes sense. They're all teaming up with basically who would overwhelm their copy the best. They tell each other their weaknesses, their strengths, and they make a plan. Get to them before they get to the room. It just was going really well, and then in a blink of an eye, two got stabbed and had to pop their bottles and run off. So it's like, when you see the same thing happen to Fern, it's like, I mean, we can't just hope Frieren's gonna do something, because what if she doesn't get there in time and she launches? You know, you just never know. But I was so happy to see that. You know, it's crazy because once again, it proves Denken's point. They all could have passed. Now, granted, they all wouldn't have passed. I mean, if everyone worked together, like literally the entire group worked together from the start, there still would have been some casualties, 100%. But the idea that as soon as they destroy that crystal, everything else stops functioning. It's not about getting there first, it's not about, like literally everyone could have passed in theory, and it just proves Denken's point more and more. And honestly, at this point, I think Denken's like a top 5 character of this show. 100%. And I think the thing that really set him over the edge for me was, if we remember when he walked into the boss room where Frieren was waiting and, you know, attacked, he's like, he pretty much was like, I'm ready to pop my bottle, because he's like, this shit scares me. This is the opponent that makes you run for the hills. And at the end, he sees her getting ate by a mimic. He says nothing. His face looks more or less like it always does, but you can tell internally in his mind, he's thinking, this is the bitch that made me scared for my life. And a mimic defeated her? Girl. How does it get better? I don't know. But we have 2 episodes left, 1 test to go. I thought what was going to happen was at least half of next week would be the remainder of this test, but 2 episodes seems solid. I mean, I have to imagine it's a much shorter test. There's no way we don't see the conclusion of who passes, because I feel like they chose 28 episodes for a reason, a good stopping point. I'm going to assume it's going to be a written test or something in that ballpark, just because I feel like that could go quicker. But either way, I'm excited to see who passes and how they're going to leave us off, because you know you're getting a season 2. This shit is way too profitable. Like, they're probably already secretly confirmed it in the background. They're working on it, because goddamn, this show, it gonna keep on releasing. Maybe we won't get more 28 episode season, maybe we'll get like, you know, a 12 or 13 episode season 2, but either way, I imagine they're gonna keep quick turnarounds, kind of similar to like an Eminence and Shadow, just because it's popped off so hard. But let me know your thoughts and feelings on this week's episode. I mean, would you even call the best episode anymore when every episode can feel like it? But I guess that's how you know you got a 10 out of 10 anime on your hands. Let me know how you feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you get notified when I upload more Frieren. And like I mentioned, we have that full live reaction over on my Patreon. And while you're over there, I'll just give you a video shout out. So today we got Jacob Darkfire, Ming Young, Morono Satagyo, June 96, and Kanagi. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.